I speak 9 languages.
They laughed when she said she spoke 9 languages. They stopped when she proved it, by exposing every million-dollar mistake in their global deals. And the billionaire at the head of the table realized too late. The janitor's daughter hadn't come to impress him. She'd come to replace him. At the head, William Everett, billionaire, immaculate, bored, tilted back in his leather throne as if gravity obeyed him. In the doorway stood Caleb Brooks, night janitor, 12 hours into a shift and still tugging his cuffs straight. Between them, Maya Brooks, 16, one hand on a scuffed spiral notebook, the other gripping a thin folder that didn't match anything in this room. "Cute," Everett said, eyes glinting. "9 sounds ambitious. Spell any of them?" A few board members chuckled into coffee that smelled like citrus and money and... "Let's go," Caleb murmured, low enough to be mistaken for air conditioning. Maya didn't move. "You think I'm pretending?" she said evenly. "I'm not." She turned, not to Everett, but to the visiting investor from Paris. "Bonjour. Votre version française inverse les délais de livraison et de paiement. Le risque comptable n'est pas le même." The man's posture shifted a degree toward respect. 2 chairs down, the Tokyo team blinked as Maya added with calm precision, "Zuori no keiyaku, di kichou no iyu ga zurete imasu. Jonglyo cham dewa naku rangdobi desu." The surface of the room changed. Not louder, sharper. Everett's smile thinned. "Memorized phrases. We build satellites here, not talent show reels. Real proof, or we're done." Maya stepped closer and set her folder on the gleaming table. Inside, printouts with neat margins, dates, file names, and red-lined corrections in 9 languages. Delivery windows, liability flips, a term that quietly turned resource transfer into project shutdown. "These are your public PDFs," she said. "The mistranslations are why partners keep stalling. They're not confused, they're cautious." One by one, the chuckles stopped. A director reached for the top page, then thought better of it. Everett didn't reach at all. Yet. "There's a short fix plan behind the marked pages," Maya added, tapping the staple. "If you actually want this to work." Everett's fingers hovered over the paper. The skyline reflected in the lacquered wood drew a wavering line between them. Before the signatures and spotlights, and long before EagleTech ever admitted the errors, there were nights when the only sounds Maya heard were a mop head squeaking down a corridor and the voices of strangers through library headphones. That's where 9 languages began, not as a trick, but as a way to be heard. If you want to understand how a janitor's daughter walked into a billionaire's boardroom and made the room listen, you have to start where the words began, on a plastic library chair, long after the building was clean. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one. And you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The memory flickered through Maya's mind as the silence thickened. The library's hum of flickering bulbs and whispered pages had been her training ground. Back then, words were survival tools, not trophies. Now those same words, French, Japanese, Arabic, lay printed and underlined before men who once laughed. The conference room was no longer a stage for ridicule. It was an operating table, and Maya's red-inked pages were the scalpel. She spread her documents across the glass like a surgeon laying out instruments. "Here," she said, sliding one sheet forward. "The French contract translates delivery window as payment term. That means your clients think you're giving them 30 days to pay, not 30 days to receive. It's a legal disaster waiting to happen." Murmurs rippled down the line of board members. One man leaned forward, another frowned, tracing the red margin notes with his finger. "Next," Maya continued, her tone steady, The Japanese file. In Article 7, your translator swapped resource transfer for resource termination. That's not a typo. It implies firing an entire department. A cough broke the silence, sharp and awkward. Even the projector's low hum sounded uneasy. She shifted to the Arabic copy. And here, Mubashir used instead of Murakab. One means immediate execution. The other means direct supervision. In this clause, you're not promising oversight. You're promising to act without review. Do you see how dangerous that is? For the first time, William Everett's smirk faltered. The empire he built on precision suddenly looked fragile. He leaned back, crossing his arms. You expect me to believe our multi-million-dollar software missed that? Before Maya could answer, a calm voice interrupted from the far end of the table. Dr. Lian Zhou, a Chinese investor known for her blunt accuracy, set her tablet down. Let's test her. She turned to Maya. 你能理解我说的话吗? 我在测试你的听力. Without missing a beat, Maya replied, 我当然能听懂，博士。您的语法完全正确，但翻译软件不会注意到语气和上下文。Of course I can, Doctor. Your grammar is perfect, but translation software doesn't hear tone or context. Dr. Zhou smiled slightly, impressed. She switched to English. She's right. AI overconfident systems ignore cultural nuance. This explains every stalled deal in Asia. The room shifted again, this time from disbelief to discomfort. The board whispered, not laughing now, but calculating. William tapped his pen against the table. Once, twice. The sound was softer than before. You're saying our contracts failed because of grammar? Not grammar, Maya corrected. Negligence. Machines don't understand meaning. People do. That's why these were never checked by a human. She stepped closer. Your algorithm's post edits were copied without review. Someone saw green check marks and stopped thinking. Dr. Zhou gave a firm nod. She's telling the truth. For a long moment, the CEO said nothing. His reflection hovered over her red annotations, a blur against her sharp lines of correction. Behind him, the skyline seemed to tilt. Maya waited. She had seen this before, the instant someone realized underestimation had a price. William finally exhaled through his nose. So. His tone was careful, almost civil. You've made your point. He straightened his cufflinks, regaining composure like a man retying a loosened tie. What do you want, Miss Brooks? A scholarship? A check? The janitor's daughter did not flinch. She looked him dead in the eye. Neither, she said softly. First, you need to hear something. The words fell into the air like a fuse being lit. And for the first time that morning, William Everett didn't laugh. The air in the room had changed. A few minutes ago, Maya's red ink had made them squirm. Now, her calm voice was about to make them listen. Before you say anything else, Mr. Everett, she said, reaching into her backpack, there's something you need to hear. A small silver recorder appeared in her hand. She pressed play. At first, there was just static, the soft hiss of truth waiting its turn. Then a familiar voice filled the room, amplified by the conference speakers. Keep the janitors out of sight when clients visit. We don't need poverty in our brand image. Caleb's body stiffened near the door. His hands, still stained from the morning's cleaning solution, trembled slightly. The recording continued, Everett's voice unmistakable. And don't waste the budget on high-end translators. Buy cheap AI subscriptions. No one reads the fine print in Africa or Asia anyway. The words hung like smoke, thick and choking. The French investor stared at his coffee. Dr. Zhou folded her arms, lips pressed into a flat, cold line. One of the board members muttered something about compliance under his breath. Everett's face drained of color. That! He cleared his throat. That recording is private. You have no right. It's from the building's automated audit system, Maya said calmly. Security cameras record audio in all executive corridors for accountability purposes. My father oversees maintenance on those floors. She let that sink in before continuing. The file is stored on a company-owned cloud, which means it's legally accessible for review, especially when the comments recorded involve discrimination and financial misconduct. Caleb flinched as his own world played back at him. Years of invisible insults now echoing through a speaker loud enough for the people who'd ignored them to finally hear. Maya, though, was steady. I didn't come here to humiliate you, she said, eyes on Everett. I came to make sure the truth isn't swept under the same floors my father cleans. The billionaire tried to speak, but Dr. Zhou's voice cut through first. Mr. Everett, this kind of statement can destroy investor confidence. The Frenchman nodded stiffly. This will make headlines by morning. Everett's jaw clenched. He looked from face to face, searching for loyalty and finding only calculation. You think this proves something? He snapped. A teenager waving around illegal recordings? Illegal? Maya's tone didn't rise. No, sir. Uncomfortable, yes, but lawful. The cameras were installed for safety. Maybe you forgot that safety includes people like us. For the first time, Everett stood, too fast, the chair scraping sharply against the floor. You're blackmailing me, he said, voice cracking like glass. Maya's eyes met his, calm and unshaken. No, she said quietly. This isn't blackmail. It's accountability. The words settled like a verdict, final and inescapable. And for the first time, the janitor's daughter, not the billionaire, was the one with power in the room. The silence after Maya's last words was different, no longer heavy with disbelief, but with strategy. William Everett's empire sat before her, trembling beneath the weight of truth. The boardroom table gleamed like a chessboard, each document a square, every silence a possible move. Maya reached into her backpack again. You said you wanted proof, Mr. Everett, she said. Now you'll get options. 3 envelopes, one red, one blue, one white, landed softly on the table in front of him. Envelope 1, she began, sliding the red one closer, contains the recording you just heard, time-stamped, cataloged, and ready for distribution. It's addressed to your investors, compliance department, and every major media outlet listed in your contact log. Everett's hand twitched toward it, but he didn't touch it. I included your full statement, Maya continued evenly, and attached the sections of the employee handbook you violated. It's formatted for automatic release if I don't disable the timer. A ripple of unease passed through the board. Someone whispered, She set a timer? Another muttered something about public relations nightmares. Envelope 2, she said, tapping the blue one, isn't a threat. It's a solution. She opened it, revealing a neat stack of printouts covered in color-coded highlights and numbered diagrams. It's a remediation plan for your translation pipeline, she explained. Step-by-step patch notes to rebuild your system properly. It lists every mistranslation in the French, Japanese, and Arabic contracts, and the vendor responsible for each. I even included a triage schedule for post-release quality assurance, and a glossary governance model for human oversight. Dr. Zhou leaned forward, scanning the pages with keen eyes. You built this yourself? Maya nodded. Using the open-source framework your software was based on. It just needed a little integrity. The French investor gave a low whistle. C'est incroyable, he murmured. If this works, You save millions. The tension cracked. Profit had entered the conversation. Maya placed her hand on the third envelope, the white one. This is the one that matters most. She slid it across the table toward her father, who still stood by the door, uncertain if he was allowed to breathe. Envelope 3 contains the payroll audit for your janitorial and maintenance staff. I listed every discrepancy, missing benefits, unpaid overtime, and names without badges. It also includes a proposal, standardized uniforms with embroidered names, healthcare coverage, and living wages. You call it cost. I call it respect. Dr. Zhou looked around the room. I suggest a recess, she said quietly, before this company decides whether it wants to be remembered for shame or progress. The board murmured, ROI, risk, press fallout, investor sentiment. Words like currency, fear, and greed intermixing. William finally spoke, his voice stripped of its earlier swagger. You're 16, he said slowly, fingers brushing the edge of the red envelope. Why should I trust you with a global fix? Maya met his gaze. Because, sir, she said, her voice calm but steady, I've already fixed what your experts broke. The room froze. The game had just changed. For a moment, William Everett simply stared at her. The red, blue, pink, and white envelopes sat like loaded dice between them, and somehow this 16-year-old had rolled all three in her favor. He leaned forward. You claim to have fixed a system that my engineers built with $15 million of research funding. Prove it. Maya smiled faintly. I already did. She tapped her tablet, and the screen on the far wall flickered to life. Rows of corrected contracts appeared, each annotated in precise red and green marks. These are the first stage revisions I implemented 2 weeks ago. I uploaded them through a dummy vendor account to test impact before speaking to you. William blinked. You what? Relax, she said, unfazed. They were sandbox copies, public-facing materials only. No breach, no NDA violation, just due diligence. A line graph appeared next, labeled contract approval delays. The French bar, once bleeding red, was now green. Maya pointed to it. Your Paris office reopened a paused partnership yesterday after my corrections. The updated clause reduced their perceived delivery risk by 48%. William's eyes darted to his communications director, who nodded hesitantly. We did get an unexpected confirmation call from Lyon this morning, the man admitted. Dr. Zhou raised a brow. She's not guessing, she murmured. Maya swiped to the next slide. Now, about governance. She spoke like she was reciting something lived, not memorized. I designed a multilingual glossary that updates in real time. It flags words with double meanings and pushes them to human reviewers before approval. The process integrates what I call a human-in-the-loop step, 5-minute checks from bilingual analysts who verify regional context before finalizing any AI translation. She paused, then added, and for sensitive contracts, medical, defense, or finance, you'll need regional legal counsel to confirm phrasing matches local law. I already drafted the partnership letters for that, too. William frowned, trying to find something to critique. And where did you learn to design linguistic pipelines? The answer came not from arrogance, but from memory. A dim public library. Caleb's mop moved rhythmically across the tiled floor, the sound blending with the soft hum of fluorescent lights. At a corner desk, Maya sat with her laptop, the glow painting her face in pale determination. She'd borrowed language textbooks from the discard pile, edges torn, spines frayed. Beside them, a stack of sticky notes mapped syntax across 8 tongues. Between cleaning rotations, Caleb brought her stale vending machine coffee and whispered, 1 more hour. Then we head home. Sometimes she studied through dawn. Words were her currency, her armor, her revenge against invisibility. Back in the boardroom, William studied her like she was rewriting the rules of gravity. "So you're saying," he muttered, "that every stalled deal I blamed on the economy was actually a translation issue," she finished for him. "A preventable one." Caleb shifted by the door, trying not to smile. But pride leaked through anyway. For years, he had watched his daughter chase impossible goals between mop strokes and night shifts. Now she stood before the man who once made her father invisible, and made him look small instead. William glanced at Dr. Joe, searching for skepticism. There was none. "It's thorough," Joe said. "More thorough than your last audit." The billionaire leaned back, silence stretching like wire. "You're 16, he said at last. "You don't have a degree. You don't even have an employee ID." Maya met his doubt head on. "I have results." The room went still again. William's pen slid from his breast pocket and hovered over the nearest contract draft, trembling ever so slightly above the signature line. Maya lifted her wrist, her smartwatch screen glowing faint blue. "For transparency," she said evenly, "this decision will be recorded." The click of the pen echoed like a trigger being pulled. Sunlight spilled through the glass walls now, gilding the conference table in a sharp, relentless glow. The city beyond had come fully awake. Traffic, sirens, voices. And yet inside Eagletech's boardroom, the only sound was the soft, deliberate scratch of a fountain pen uncapped. William Everett rolled the pen between his fingers, the weight of it suddenly foreign. For a man who had signed billion-dollar mergers with that same steady hand, this contract, felt heavier. Across from him, Maya Brooks waited with the patience of someone who already knew how this would end. The morning light caught the silver edge of her smartwatch. Its small red dot blinked softly, a silent witness. He took a breath. "Let's be clear," he said, glancing at the first page. "This agreement makes you Junior International Communications Consultant," Maya finished. 6-month probationary period. Renewable upon performance metrics. Clause 12 defines anti-retaliation terms for both me and my father. Everett nodded. She had memorized every line. Caleb, standing a few steps behind her, still hadn't spoken. His hands were clasped tight, knuckles white, as if afraid the moment might dissolve if he moved too suddenly. Maya tapped the stack of papers gently. "Clause 14 covers maintenance pay structure," she reminded him. "Wage readjustments for all staff, new uniforms with embroidered names, health benefits. It's all itemized." The board murmured among themselves, uneasy at how the girl who'd walked in with a backpack now dictated policy. Dr. Leon Joe cleared her throat. "This is unprecedented," she said carefully. "If she's to be integrated into corporate operations, there must be oversight, KPIs, review cycles." Maya turned toward her, calm but unyielding. "That's fair. You'll have measurable outcomes. Error rate reduced by 50% in 90 days, deal velocity increased by 30 in 6 months. Those are your metrics." One of the board members blinked. "And if you fail?" "Then you replace me," she said simply. "But I won't." Everett almost smiled at the audacity. Almost. He looked down at the signature line again. The name typed above it, Maya L. Brooks, seemed to hum off the page. A janitor's daughter, barely 16, negotiating with executives who couldn't even pronounce half the languages she'd mastered. "Before I sign," he said, his voice quieter now, "answer me this. Why do this? Why not sell the recording, cash out, vanish into some scholarship?" Maya's expression softened, but her words were flint. "Because money doesn't fix broken systems. People do." The board fell silent. Even the hum of the city outside seemed to dim. Everett nodded slowly, the resistance fading from his eyes. Then finally he pressed pen to paper. The first signature was his own, broad, assertive, almost theatrical. Then another for Caleb Brooks, head of maintenance operations with full benefits and authority over facility safety audits. The pen paused only once more before moving to Maya's appointment line. When the ink met the paper, the moment shifted. Something invisible but undeniable passed between them. A reversal of gravity, a quiet surrender of power. Everett leaned back, exhaling through a small laugh, one that surprised even him. "You're terrifyingly good," he said, almost fondly. Maya smiled faintly. "No," she corrected. "Just prepared." For a heartbeat, they both sat in the halo of morning light. The table between them now a bridge instead of a barrier. Then, from beyond the glass wall, a series of camera flashes burst like lightning. The PR team, already alerted, had arrived early. Reporters, too, drawn by the whisper that EagleTech's CEO had been outmatched by a teenager. Everett turned toward the light, squinting. "Seems word travels fast," he muttered. Maya closed her notebook, the corners of her lips curving. "That's because people listen when the right story is told." Their hands met across the table, one scarred by labor, one softened by wealth, both marked now by ink. Outside, the city kept moving. But inside that room, a new kind of history had just been signed. 6 weeks later, EagleTech didn't sound the same. Where once there had been silence, punctuated by the soft shuffle of janitors and the clipped tones of executives, now came laughter, accents, and the hum of collaboration. The walls themselves seemed to carry new meaning. It began with a simple banner in the main atrium. The 9 Voices Initiative, connecting the world, one language at a time. Maya's idea had become a movement. In a bright glass lab on the second floor, clusters of young interns, many from underfunded public schools, translated live product demos in real time. French, Korean, Swahili, Arabic, each voice clear, confident, and trained through the new Youth Translation Lab program. On another floor, coders worked side by side, refining the AI translation model under Maya's supervision, running cultural accuracy sprints to test nuance and tone. Downstairs, in the operations corridor, the changes were more tangible. Every janitor now wore a crisp navy blue uniform with their name embroidered in white. Not staff, not cleaner, their name. Caleb Brooks stood in the middle of the loading dock, clipboard in hand, briefing a small group of new supervisors. "Respect the hours," he said firmly. "If someone's pulling a double, you clear it with them first. No surprises, no shortcuts." He still mopped floors sometimes, not because he had to, but because it reminded him where all this started. In the cafeteria, executives now ate at the same tables as custodians. It was awkward at first, then normal. People began to share food, stories, laughter, and upstairs, in the glass-walled conference room where everything had once gone wrong, the monitors displayed real-time metrics. Error rate, 61%. Contract turnaround time, 37%. Regional satisfaction, 52%. The results were impossible to ignore. A Japanese distributor that had cut ties months earlier sent a handwritten note of thanks after a corrected clause saved a multi-million-dollar partnership. A Gulf consortium reopened negotiations, citing newfound linguistic precision. William Everett read every report with quiet disbelief. Each success was both a victory and a rebuke, a reminder that a teenager's insight had rebuilt what his pride had almost destroyed. Not everyone celebrated, though. One senior VP, Halverson, clung to the old vendor relationship like a lifeline. "We can't rebuild every process based on a kid's experiments," he argued. Maya didn't fight him with emotion. She fought him with data. Your vendor's models misclassified 14% of contextual phrases, she said, projecting the proof on screen. That's 8.4 million in lost negotiations. Would you like me to forward the logs? Halverson didn't reply. The next day, he quietly approved the transition. By Friday, even the skeptics had started quoting her catchphrase in meetings. Always verify before you translate. That afternoon, William walked into her office holding a letter. A journalist, he said, wants an interview about the meeting. Maya looked up from her monitor. What do we tell them? He exhaled slowly, eyes distant but resolute. The truth, he said. Outside, the hum of 9 voices continued, strong, steady, unstoppable. The press conference wasn't in a ballroom or a boardroom. It was in the cafeteria. That was Maya's idea. If we're going to talk about change, she'd said, let's start where everyone belongs. So they cleared the lunch tables, rolled in the podium, and invited the world. Cameras clicked as journalists, investors, and employees filled the space. The smell of brewed coffee mixed with quiet anticipation. At the front, under a banner that read, Eagle Tech Rebuilds Trust, William Everett adjusted the microphone. For once, there was no designer suit, no arrogant tilt of the chin. Just a man with sleeves rolled up and a truth too heavy to dodge. He began simply. 6 weeks ago, a 16-year-old girl walked into this company and exposed what pride had blinded me to for years. His voice didn't tremble, but it softened. Our systems were broken, our values worse. But she didn't destroy us. She gave us a chance to rebuild. Flashbulbs went off. A few reporters leaned forward. William continued, Today, I want to make something official. Maya Brooks has been appointed lead consultant for the 9 Voices initiative. Her methods have already restored contracts we thought were lost, and more importantly, restored the soul of this company. He gestured toward the back, where janitors and technicians stood shoulder to shoulder with executives, all wearing the same new navy blue uniforms, embroidered with their names. Every employee, every voice matters here. That's not a slogan. That's our new operating principle. The applause began cautiously, then grew. Dr. Leon Joe took the podium next. Her words carried both warmth and precision. Profit can't sustain a company alone, she said. Respect does. In 6 weeks, Eagle Tech's valuation has risen, not because of a marketing campaign, but because integrity became measurable. Behind her, the display screens shifted. Graphs of rebounded markets, endorsements from international partners. A statement from Tokyo scrolled across one. The new Eagle Tech speaks our language again. Another from Paris. They learned to listen. When Caleb was invited up, he hesitated, looking out over the sea of cameras and faces. His hands were rough, his voice quiet, but the room stilled as soon as he spoke. When your child knows her worth, he said slowly, even the richest man can't afford to underestimate her. Somewhere in the crowd, a janitor wiped his eyes. Reporters scribbled notes furiously. The moment felt raw, unpolished, real. But not everyone was sentimental. A young journalist from the Wall Street Ledger raised her hand. Mr. Everett, she said, there's video of your past remarks circulating online, about janitors, about foreign partners. Are these changes genuine or just PR damage control? William didn't flinch. They're genuine because they cost me something, he said. My reputation, my certainty, and my comfort. I earned this lesson the hard way, and I intend to prove it every day moving forward. Another reporter turned to Maya. You exposed corruption, fixed a multi-million-dollar problem, and changed company policy, all before graduating high school. What do you want next? A scholarship? Your own fund? Maybe a seat at the executive table? The cameras swiveled toward her. Maya, standing just beside her father, smiled faintly. "I don't need a seat," she said. "What I want is a door, propped open, so the next kid like me doesn't have to break it down just to be heard." The crowd fell silent, then erupted in applause that rolled through the cafeteria like thunder. In the back of the room, William Everett looked at her, not as a CEO, not as a man who'd once laughed at her father's uniform, but as someone finally learning what leadership meant. Outside, reporters swarmed. Inside, the cafeteria filled with laughter, handshakes, and the smell of food warming on steel trays. It wasn't just a press event. It was the first public proof that power could apologize and still stand tall. Morning sunlight poured through the lobby of Eagle Tech Global, turning every glass surface into a mirror of possibility. The building felt different now. Not just cleaner or brighter, but awake. Employees gathered near the entrance where a new bronze plaque had been covered by a soft white cloth. Cameras were absent this time. No press releases, no speeches rehearsed, just people, executives, janitors, interns, translators, standing side by side, waiting. William Everett stepped forward, wearing a simple gray suit. Beside him stood Caleb Brooks, his uniform pressed, his posture proud but humble. Maya adjusted the microphone for him. It wobbled slightly, and he smiled. William cleared his throat. "We've changed many things here," he began. "Systems, pay structures, contracts. But what mattered most was something we didn't plan for, a shift in how we see each other." He nodded to Caleb. Together they pulled the cloth away. The plaque gleamed. At the top, etched in clean lettering, were the words, "Real power isn't in how loudly you speak. It's in how many people finally understand you." Maya L. Brooks. Beneath it hung a framed photograph, Maya and Caleb standing side by side in that very lobby. Caleb held his mop. Maya held her pen. Both smiled like people who knew exactly what they'd built together. For a long moment, no one spoke. The quiet was reverent, the kind born of gratitude, not obligation. William turned to Caleb quietly. "She did more than fix our language," he said. "She taught me one." Caleb's eyes softened. "Which one's that?" William smiled faintly. "Respect." He extended his hand, and Caleb took it without hesitation. Later that afternoon, the scene shifted. Across town, inside the Bronx Public Library, where it had all begun. The janitor's daughter was back where the story started, only this time, she wasn't alone. The back room had been renovated, a small gold plaque on the wall reading, "The Brooks Fellowship, in partnership with Eagle Tech Global." Maya stood before a dozen kids hunched over laptops, notebooks, and translation screens, their voices layered through the air like music. "Try again," she told a girl struggling with a Spanish phrase. "Roll the R softly. It's not force, it's rhythm." From the corner, a boy recited greetings in French, another in Japanese. Laughter broke through the effort, the kind of laughter that comes from realizing you can learn something the world said you couldn't. Maya leaned back against a bookshelf, watching them. 9 languages, she whispered to herself, and 100 more to go. Through the library window, the city moved as always, indifferent, impatient, infinite. But inside, something was quietly rewriting its rhythm. Back at Eagle Tech, evening light washed through the lobby. The reflection on the glass walls shimmered, rows of names embroidered on new uniforms, visible and proud. Each one told a story, each one a reminder that invisibility was not destiny, but a decision undone. As the last employees clocked out, the plaque by the door caught the sunset. For a second, the words seemed alive. etched not in metal, but in memory. Real power isn't in how loudly you speak, it's in how many people finally understand you. Maya's quote glowed softly in the amber light, reflected again and again across the glass until it filled the entire lobby. And in that reflection, mops, pens, name badges, and faces all stood equal, all visible. Visibility earned, not begged. Thank you for watching to the end. I believe you enjoyed it. We have a lot of other interesting stories like this lined up for you already, so click the image showing on your screen to watch the next